The stars looked different when you knew aliens were watching them. Admiral Yoon stood at the observation deck of Luna Station, looking out at Earth's blue marble hanging in space. The coffee in his hands had gone cold hours ago, but he kept holding the cup anyway. It gave him something to do with his hands while he waited for the message that would change everything. "Sir, the transmission is coming through now," Captain Lee said as she walked up behind him. Her voice was steady, but Yoon could hear the tension underneath. Everyone on the station felt it. For the past 3 months, they had been picking up strange signals from deep space, signals that definitely did not come from any human ship or station. Yoon turned away from the window and followed Lee to the communications center. The room was packed with officers and technicians, all staring at the main screen. Static filled the display, then slowly cleared to show something that made everyone in the room go quiet. The alien that appeared on screen looked like a giant insect. Its eyes were black and multifaceted, like a fly's eyes but much larger. When it spoke, the computer translated its words into perfect English, but the voice still sounded wrong somehow. Too sharp, too clicking. "Greetings, primitive species of the third planet," the alien said. "I am Chancellor Vex of the Galactic Council. For 3,000 of your years, we have maintained peace across 17 star systems. Your species has been discovered. Your actions threaten this peace." Yoon felt his stomach drop. He had expected this day might come ever since humanity invented faster-than-light travel. But hoping for something and being ready for it were two different things. The alien continued speaking. "Your species has developed space travel through dangerous methods. You use nuclear explosions to power your ships. You build weapons first and ask questions later. This cannot be allowed to continue." Captain Lee stepped forward. "Sir, should we respond?" "Not yet," Yoon whispered. "Let's hear what they want first." Chancellor Vex raised one of its insect arms. "The Galactic Council has decided to offer you one chance. You will surrender all military vessels to our custody. You will allow our peacekeepers to monitor your activities. You will follow our guidance as you develop as a species. If you agree to these terms, your people will be allowed to continue existing under our protection." The room was so quiet that Yoon could hear the air recycling, system humming in the walls. Protection. The alien made it sound like they were doing humanity a favor. "If you refuse these generous terms," Chancellor Vex continued, "we will be forced to take corrective action. You have 30 of your standard days to decide. Choose wisely, primitive ones." The screen went black. For a long moment, nobody in the communications center said anything. Then everyone started talking at once. Some officers were angry, shouting about aliens telling them what to do. Others looked scared, talking about how advanced the aliens must be if they could send messages across space like that. A few just looked confused, like they were still trying to understand what had just happened. "Quiet," Yoon shouted, and the room fell silent again. "Captain Lee, get me a direct line to Earth Command. Priority 1. Within minutes, Yoon was talking to General Kim, the head of Earth's defense forces. The general's face on the screen looked tired and worried. "We got the same message here, Admiral," Kim said. "The President wants an emergency meeting with all senior military staff. Can you get down here?" "On my way," Yoon replied. "What about Director Park from Diplomatic Corps?" "Already here. She's been trying to figure out how to respond to them. The problem is we don't know anything about these aliens except what they just told us." 2 hours later, Yoon was sitting in a conference room deep underground at Earth Command. The room was full of the most important military and political leaders on Earth. Director Park, a small woman with sharp eyes, stood at the front of the room with a holographic display showing what little they knew about the alien signal. "The transmission came from approximately 40 light-years away," she said. "Our best guess is they have some kind of faster-than-light communication system we don't understand yet. The signal was incredibly strong, which means they have technology far beyond ours." General Kim leaned forward in his chair. "The question is, what do we do about it? They gave us 30 days to surrender or face corrective action. That sounds like a threat to me." "It is a threat," said Captain Seo, commander of the experimental warship Taeguk. "These aliens think they can just tell us what to do because they've been around longer. I say we tell them where they can stick their generous offer." "And then what?" Director Park asked. "If they're as advanced as they seem, fighting them could mean the end of human civilization." Admiral Yoon had been listening to the argument go back and forth for 20 minutes. Finally, he stood up. "Has anyone considered that maybe they're not as powerful as they want us to think?" The room went quiet again. Park raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? Think about it, Yoon said. If they're so advanced, why give us 30 days to decide? Why not just show up and take over? Maybe they're trying to avoid a fight because they're not sure they can win one. Captain Seo nodded. The Admiral might be right. Our ships might be nuclear-powered and crewed, but we've got over 200 warships now. That's not nothing. It's not enough either, Director Park said. We need to try diplomacy first. Maybe we can negotiate better terms. General Kim stood up and walked to the window. Outside, they could see Earth's orbital defense platforms hanging in space like metal spiders. I don't like the idea of surrender, he said slowly. But I also don't like the idea of getting our entire species wiped out. The debate continued for hours. Some wanted to fight, others wanted to negotiate, and a few thought humanity should just surrender and hope for the best. But as the meeting went on, Yoon noticed something. Every time someone mentioned fighting, more people seemed to listen. When someone talked about surrender, the room got uncomfortable. Finally, the president himself entered the room. He was an older man with gray hair and tired eyes, but when he spoke, his voice was strong. I've been listening to the reports, he said, and I've made a decision. We're not surrendering to anyone. These aliens can take their ultimatum and... He paused and looked around the room. Well, they can keep it. Commander Park, send them our response. Commander Park, who had been quiet during most of the meeting, stepped forward. What should I tell them, sir? The president smiled for the first time that day. Tell them that Earth appreciates their offer, but humanity will determine its own future. If they want to fight about it, they know where to find us. 3 hours later, the message was sent into deep space. The response came back faster than anyone expected. Just 2 words. So be it. Admiral Yoon looked out at the stars again as he prepared to return to Luna Station. Somewhere out there, alien ships were probably already heading toward Earth. He didn't know how many ships they had or how advanced their weapons were, but he knew one thing for certain. Humanity was about to face its greatest test, and failure meant extinction. The coffee in his hands was cold again, but this time he didn't mind. He had work to do. 3 weeks had passed since Earth sent its defiant message into space. In the command center of the Council warship Eternal Justice, General Thane studied the tactical display with satisfaction. His fleet of 40 ships was making excellent time toward the human homeworld. Each vessel represented the pinnacle of galactic military engineering, built by civilizations that had mastered space travel when humans were still hitting rocks together. General Thane was a Corvani, a reptilian species known throughout the galaxy for their military expertise. His scales were dark green with silver markings that showed his rank, and his yellow eyes missed nothing. He had fought in 12 major conflicts and never lost a single battle. The humans would be no different. Sir, we're receiving the latest intelligence reports on human military capabilities, his aide, Captain Nex, reported. The young Corvani's scales were still bright green, showing his inexperience, but he was eager to learn. Thane activated the holographic display. The information made him even more confident about the coming battle. According to their long-range sensors and intercepted communications, Earth possessed fewer than 200 functional warships. Most of these were converted civilian vessels with crude projectile weapons and basic armor plating. Look at this. Thane pointed to an image of a human destroyer. They still use solid metal projectiles fired from chemical explosives. Their fastest ships can barely reach half the speed of our slowest vessels. This will be over before it begins. The general's confidence was shared by the rest of the council fleet. The ethereal High Consul Mora had sent her blessing from the council chambers, along with instructions to minimize human casualties if possible. The plan was simple: arrive at Earth with overwhelming force, destroy any ships that resisted, and accept the surrender of the remainder. Most estimates suggested the entire operation would take less than 6 hours. Back on Earth, the situation looked desperate from every angle. Captain Seo stood in the briefing room at Luna Command, looking at the holographic display that showed their defensive preparations. It was not an inspiring sight. We've recalled every ship we have, she reported to the assembled officers. 237 vessels total, including cargo haulers with hastily mounted weapons and mining ships with improvised armor. The flagship Taiyang is our most powerful ship, and it's still running on technology that's barely 20 years old. Admiral Yoon nodded grimly. The Taiyang was indeed their best hope, a massive battleship that Captain Nam had been upgrading with experimental weapons for the past year. But even with all their improvements, it was still a human ship facing alien technology that was thousands of years more advanced. "What about the orbital platforms?" asked Colonel Wan, commander of Earth's Marine Forces. 36 platforms around Earth, another 20 around Luna," CO replied. "They've got good firepower, but they can't move. If the aliens decide to just stay out of range and bombard them, there's not much we can do." The mood in the room was getting darker by the minute. Everyone knew they were outgunned and outmatched. But then Lieutenant Colonel Choi walked into the room and everything changed. Choi was the head of Earth's Special Projects Division, a secretive group that worked on experimental technology. She was a small woman with short black hair and eyes that always seemed to be thinking about something else. Most people in the military knew she existed, but nobody was quite sure what she actually did. "Sorry I'm late," she said, not sounding sorry at all. "I've been busy with a little project that might interest you." Admiral Yoon looked up. "What kind of project, Colonel?" Choi activated her personal tablet and connected it to the room's display system. "Tell me, Admiral, what do you think is humanity's greatest advantage over these aliens?" "I'm not sure we have any advantages," Yoon replied honestly. "Wrong," Choi said with a smile. "Our advantage is that we think differently. These council species have been around for thousands of years. They've perfected their technology, refined their ships, turned shipbuilding into an art form. Each of their vessels is a masterpiece that takes years to construct." She pressed a button on her tablet, and the display changed to show a schematic of something that looked like a shipyard, but bigger than any shipyard anyone in the room had ever seen. While they were perfecting individual ships, we perfected something else, mass production. Specifically, quantum fold manufacturing. The room went quiet. Quantum fold manufacturing was theoretical technology that most scientists said was impossible with current human knowledge. 6 months ago, my team achieved a breakthrough, Choi continued. "We can now manufacture complex machinery, including entire spacecraft, in a fraction of the time it used to take. Instead of building one perfect ship in a year, we can build 100 good ships in a month." Captain Nam leaned forward. "Are you saying we have more ships than we've reported?" "I'm saying we have been very busy," Choi replied. "Admiral, how many ships do you think we actually have right now?" Yoon felt his heart racing. "I don't know. Tell me." "As of this morning, we have completed construction of 4,736 combat vessels. They're hidden throughout the solar system, waiting for orders." The silence in the room was complete. Nobody moved, nobody spoke, nobody even seemed to breathe. Finally, Admiral Yoon found his voice. 4,000? Are you serious?" "Dead serious. We have shipyards in the asteroid belt on Mars hidden in the gas giant moons. Each one has been running quantum fold manufacturing around the clock. The ships aren't as pretty as the alien vessels, but they're fast, well-armed, and there are a lot of them." Captain Seo was the first to recover from the shock. "Why didn't you tell us about this sooner?" "Because it needed to be a secret," Choi explained. "If the aliens had known what we were really capable of, they might have sent a bigger fleet. Or they might have decided to just destroy Earth from a distance instead of trying to occupy it." Colonel Wan stood up and started pacing. "So when they arrive expecting to fight 200 ships, they'll find themselves facing nearly 5,000, Choi finished. "Each one crewed by volunteers who have been training in secret for months. Each one equipped with weapons designed specifically to counter what we know about Council technology." Admiral Yoon was starting to smile. For the first time in weeks, he felt something other than dread about the coming battle. "Where are they positioned?" "Everywhere," Choi said. "Behind asteroids, inside gas clouds, hidden in the shadow of planets. When the aliens arrive, they'll see our main fleet of 200 ships positioned defensively around Earth. What they won't see is the trap we've prepared for them." The meeting continued for another 2 hours as Choi explained the details of the hidden fleet. The ships were smaller than traditional human vessels, but faster and more maneuverable. Instead of trying to match alien technology directly, human engineers had focused on numbers and tactics. Each ship was designed to work as part of a coordinated swarm, overwhelming enemy defenses through sheer volume of fire. As the briefing ended, Admiral Yoon felt something he hadn't experienced in weeks: hope. The aliens were still more advanced, still more powerful individually, but they were expecting to fight a primitive species with a handful of crude ships. Instead, they would face the full industrial might of humanity unleashed. That night, Captain Yoon received orders to take his scout ship Hangang to the edge of the solar system. His job was to watch for the alien fleet and provide early warning when they arrived. As he prepared his ship for departure, he thought about the thousands of hidden vessels waiting in the darkness. The Council expected humanity's defeat. They had planned for a quick, easy victory against a primitive species that couldn't possibly threaten their advanced civilization. What they didn't understand was that humanity's greatest strength had never been individual superiority. It was their ability to adapt, to mass produce, and to fight as one coordinated force. In 3 days, the alien fleet would arrive at Earth. They would discover that underestimating humanity was the biggest mistake they had ever made. The Council fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the solar system with the precision of a military parade. 40 gleaming warships arranged themselves in perfect formation, their energy shields creating a light show that could be seen from Earth with the naked eye. General Thane stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the tactical display with satisfaction. Sensors show 37 human vessels in defensive formation near their moon, reported Captain Nex. Just as our intelligence predicted, they appear to be arranging themselves for a final stand. Thane nodded. Through the viewscreen, he could see the small blue planet that had caused so much trouble. It looked peaceful from this distance, with white clouds swirling over blue oceans. Hard to believe such a primitive world could threaten the galactic order. Open a communication channel to the human fleet, Thane ordered. Let's give them one final chance to surrender. The main screen flickered and showed the bridge of a human ship. The vessel's interior looked crude compared to Council technology, with exposed metal panels and primitive computer displays. Standing at the center was an older human male wearing a simple uniform with minimal decoration. "I am Admiral Yoon of the Terran Defense Force," the human said. His voice was calm, but Thane could see the tension in his eyes. "You are entering human space without permission." Thane stepped forward so the human could see his full height and impressive scale pattern. "I am General Thane of the Galactic Council Fleet. Your species has rejected our generous offer of protection. This is your final opportunity to avoid unnecessary bloodshed. Surrender now and your people will be treated with mercy." Admiral Yoon was quiet for a moment, looking at something off-screen. When he turned back, his expression had hardened. "General, I appreciate your offer, but humanity will defend itself. If you want Earth, you'll have to take it." "So be it," Thane replied and cut the communication. The first engagement began near Jupiter's orbit. Commander Ryu led a squadron of human destroyers in what appeared to be a desperate flanking maneuver. Thane watched with professional interest as the 6 human ships accelerated toward his formation, their primitive engines leaving bright trails behind them. "Sir, should we engage?" asked his weapons officer. "Yes, but use minimum power," Thane replied. "We want to disable them, not vaporize them. These primitives deserve a chance to see our superiority before they surrender." The Council ships opened fire with energy beams that cut through space like silver lightning. The first human destroyer took a direct hit to its engine section and exploded in a brilliant fireball. The second ship lost its weapons array and began tumbling out of control. But the remaining 4 ships kept coming, firing their crude projectile weapons at maximum range. "Remarkable," Thane observed. "They actually believe they can hurt us with those primitive bullets." The human projectiles bounced harmlessly off the Council ship's energy shields. The remaining destroyers lasted another 30 seconds before they were overwhelmed by superior firepower. Commander Ryu's ship was the last to fall, taking several hits before its hull cracked open and vented atmosphere into space. "Primitive but brave," Captain Nex commented. "Should we pursue the survivors?" "Yes," Thane decided. "Let's end this quickly." Full speed toward their homeworld. The Council fleet accelerated toward Earth, confident that the small skirmish had broken human morale. Thane expected the remaining ships to retreat to their planet's orbit for a final desperate defense. It would be over within the hour. What the Council fleet didn't know was that the destroyed ships had been transmitting coded signals throughout the brief battle. Hidden throughout the solar system, thousands of human vessels received Captain Bay's final transmission from his concealed position in the asteroid belt. Phase 1 complete. "Initiate Phase 2 on my mark." The asteroid belt had been busy for months. What looked like ordinary space rocks were actually camouflaged shipyards, each one producing dozens of warships using humanity's revolutionary quantum fold manufacturing. As the Council fleet passed through the outer system, These hidden facilities prepared to reveal humanity's true strength. Captain Bay commanded the operation from a converted mining station that had been turned into a military command center. His screens showed the positions of over 4,000 human ships, all waiting for the signal to attack. Each vessel was crewed by volunteers who had trained in secret, knowing that Earth's survival depended on complete surprise. "Sir, the alien fleet is approaching the inner system," reported Lieutenant Han from the sensor station. "They're maintaining formation and speed. No indication they suspect anything," Bay nodded. The plan was working perfectly. The aliens had seen exactly what humanity wanted them to see. A small, desperate fleet making a hopeless last stand. They had no idea that Earth's real navy was hiding in the shadows, waiting to spring the largest military trap in human history. "All ships, this is command," Bay transmitted on the encrypted channel that linked every hidden vessel. "Prepare for Phase 2. Remember your training, trust your squad mates, and show these aliens what humanity can do when we fight together." As the Council fleet advanced toward Earth, Admiral Yoon watched from the bridge of the Taiyang. His small visible fleet was arranged in defensive formation around Luna, looking brave but hopeless against the approaching alien armada. Everything depended on timing. "Sir, we're receiving the activation signal," reported Captain Nam. "All hidden units report ready for deployment." Yoon took a deep breath. For months they had been preparing for this moment. The success of the plan depended on the aliens believing they were facing a primitive, outgunned enemy right up until the moment the trap was sprung. "Signal all ships," Yoon ordered. "Execute Operation Swarm." What happened next would be remembered as the moment everything changed. Throughout the solar system, human warships began emerging from their hiding places. Ships rose from behind asteroids where they had waited in powered-down silence. Others decloaked from positions near gas giant moons where they had hidden in electromagnetic shadows. More vessels launched from concealed bases on Mars and in the asteroid belt. General Thane was studying his tactical display when his sensor officer suddenly went very quiet. "Sir," the young Corvani said in a voice that cracked with disbelief, "I'm picking up multiple new contacts. Hundreds of them." "Hundreds?" Thane moved to the sensor station. "That's impossible," our intelligence clearly stated. "Sir, make that thousands," the sensor officer corrected. "I'm reading 4,853 distinct human vessels. They're surrounding us." Thane felt his confidence evaporate like morning mist. The tactical display now showed human ships emerging from every direction. The sky around Earth, which had been empty moments before, was now filled with the running lights of an enormous human fleet. "How is this possible?" Captain Nex whispered. On the bridge of the Taiyang, Admiral Yoon smiled as he watched the alien fleet's formation begin to waver. The Council ships had expected to face fewer than 40 human vessels. Instead, they found themselves surrounded by nearly 5,000 warships, each one hungry for battle. "All ships, this is Admiral Yoon," he transmitted on the open channel that the aliens could hear. "Welcome to our solar system, General Thane. As you can see, we've prepared a proper reception for you." The Council fleet was now completely surrounded. Human ships blocked every escape route, their weapons powered up and targeting systems locked onto alien vessels. The trap was perfect, and the aliens had walked right into it. General Thane stood frozen on his bridge, staring at a tactical situation that made no sense. His 40 ships faced nearly 5,000 human vessels. Even if human technology was primitive, numbers like that could overwhelm any defense. "Sir, incoming transmission from the human fleet," his communications officer reported. "Put it through," Thane said, his voice hollow. Admiral Yoon appeared on the screen again, but this time he was smiling. "General, I believe you mentioned something about corrective action." "We're ready when you are." The silence on General Thane's bridge lasted exactly 7 seconds. Then everyone started talking at once. Officers shouted conflicting orders, sensor technicians called out impossible readings, and communication staff tried desperately to contact the Council for instructions. Thane himself stood motionless, staring at the tactical display that showed his fleet completely surrounded by thousands of human ships. "Sir, what are your orders?" Captain Nex asked, his young voice shaking. Thane forced himself to think. He was a veteran of 12 major battles, and he had never lost his composure under fire. The situation was bad, but not hopeless. His ships were still superior to anything the humans could field. Quality could still defeat quantity. Battle Formation Alpha, he ordered. Concentrate fire on the largest human vessels first. If we can break their command structure, the rest might surrender. The Council ships moved into their traditional fighting formation, energy shields at maximum power and weapons charged. Each vessel was a masterpiece of galactic engineering, built to fight single combat duels with other advanced warships. Their energy beams could cut through almost any armor, and their shields could absorb tremendous amounts of damage, but the humans didn't fight like any enemy the Council had ever faced. Captain Shin led the first wave of the human counterattack from the bridge of her cruiser Sol. Her ship was one of 50 vessels in Strike Group Alpha, and their target was the alien flagship. But instead of attacking in a straight line like civilized warriors, the human ships swarmed around their target like angry insects. All ships, maintain formation, Shin ordered as energy beams flashed past her ship. Remember the drill. No single ship engages alone. We hit them together or not at all. The human tactics were unlike anything in the Council military manual. Instead of ship-to-ship dueling, the humans sent multiple smaller vessels against each alien ship. When the Council vessels tried to target one human ship, 3 others would attack from different angles. When they shifted fire to counter the new threat, the original attacker would resume firing. General Thane watched in growing frustration as his flagship took damage from a dozen different directions. Each individual human attack was weak, but the combined firepower was beginning to overwhelm his shields. Focus all weapons on that cruiser, he ordered, pointing to Captain Shin's ship. If we can destroy their leader, sir, I'm reading torpedo launches from multiple directions, his weapons officer interrupted. Lieutenant Commander Zhang's torpedo squadron had been waiting for this moment. Her 12 small ships were too fast for the alien energy weapons to track, and their quantum torpedoes had been specifically designed to exploit weaknesses in Council shield technology. Fox 1. Fox 2, Zhang transmitted as her ship launched its weapons. All birds away. The quantum torpedoes streaked toward the Council flagship, their guidance systems locked onto the weak points that human intelligence had identified in alien ship designs. The first 2 torpedoes were intercepted by defensive fire, but the third punched through the flagship's shields and exploded against its hull. Thane felt his ship shudder under the impact. Damage reports flooded in from all decks. These primitive humans were actually hurting his vessel. Sir, the ethereal ship Starwind is requesting assistance, Captain Nex reported. They're being overwhelmed by human fighters. On the far side of the battle, Colonel Wan's Marine squadrons were executing the most dangerous part of the human plan. Their small, fast ships were designed for boarding operations, and they had identified several Council vessels that appeared to be in distress. Boarding Party Alpha. This is Breach Leader, Wan transmitted to his Marines. We have a clean approach on the alien cruiser. Prepare for forced entry. The human boarding craft latched onto the hull of a disabled Council ship like metal ticks. Cutting torches began slicing through alien armor while the Marines prepared their weapons. Council crews had never faced boarding actions before. Their advanced technology was supposed to prevent enemy ships from getting close enough to board. Inside the alien vessel, Wan and his Marines found themselves in corridors that seemed designed for beings much taller than humans. The walls curved strangely, and the lighting was all wrong for human eyes, but their training took over, and they began moving methodically through the ship. Contact front, Sergeant Kim called out as alien crew members appeared around a corner. The Council aliens were armed with energy weapons, but they moved slowly and seemed confused by the human tactics. The battle raged across multiple orbital zones for over 6 hours. Human ships darted in and out of weapons range, striking fast and hard before disappearing back into the swarm. Council vessels, designed for dignified single combat, found themselves overwhelmed by coordinated attacks from dozens of smaller ships. Captain Han commanded a squadron of converted mining ships that had been armed with human-built plasma cannons. His vessels were ugly and crude compared to the elegant alien designs, but they were also fast and expendable. Remember, people, Han transmitted to his squadron, we're not trying to win a beauty contest. Hit them hard, hit them fast, and get out before they can return fire. His ship swooped down on a Council destroyer that had become separated from the main alien formation. The mining ships fired everything they had, their improvised weapon systems overloading and sparking with each shot. The alien ship tried to return fire, but the humans were already gone, replaced by another squadron attacking from a different angle. By the end of the 6th hour, General Thane's mighty fleet was in ruins. Half his ships had been destroyed or disabled. The others were heavily damaged and running low on power. His own flagship was barely functional, with hull breaches on 7 decks and main power fluctuating wildly. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the Galactic Council," his communications officer reported. Thane activated the long-range communicator with shaking hands. The holographic image of Chancellor Vex appeared, but the insect-like alien looked different than before. His multifaceted eyes seemed wider, and his usually calm voice had a sharp edge to it. "General Thane, we have been monitoring your battle," Vex said. "Your situation appears to be deteriorating." "The humans had more ships than intelligence indicated," Thane replied, trying to keep his voice steady. "Request immediate reinforcements." "Reinforcements are already en route," Vex answered. "The Grand Armada has been mobilized. 10,000 ships representing the combined fleets of 17 civilizations. They will arrive in your system within 3 months." Thane felt a surge of hope. 10,000 ships. Not even these swarming humans could stand against the full might of the Galactic Council. "Sir," Captain Nex interrupted, "the human fleet is pulling back. They're returning to defensive positions around their planet." Thane looked at his tactical display. The humans were indeed withdrawing, their damaged ships limping back toward Earth. They had bloodied his nose, but they couldn't maintain their attack indefinitely. His remaining ships could retreat to the edge of the system and wait for the Grand Armada to arrive. "Set course for the outer system," he ordered. "We'll regroup and wait for reinforcements." As the battered Council fleet began its withdrawal, Admiral Yoon watched from the bridge of the Taiyang. His ship had taken damage during the battle, but nothing that couldn't be repaired. More importantly, the human fleet had proven something important. They could fight the aliens and win. "Casualty report," he requested. 47 ships lost, 133 damaged, Captain Nam reported. "But we destroyed 21 alien vessels and disabled 8 more. "Admiral, we actually won." Yoon nodded, but his expression remained serious. "The aliens mentioned reinforcements. 10,000 ships. We hurt them today, but they're not going to underestimate us again." Lieutenant Colonel Choi entered the bridge, her uniform torn and her face smudged with smoke. "Admiral, I've been monitoring alien communications. Their reinforcements aren't just coming to finish us off. They're bringing everything they have because they're scared." "Scared of what?" "Scared of us," Choi replied with a tired smile. "We just proved that human tactics can defeat alien technology. If word of this battle spreads to other species under Council control, it might inspire rebellions. They need to crush us completely to maintain their authority." Yoon looked out at the stars where the alien fleet was retreating. 3 months. They had 3 months to prepare for the largest battle in human history. The Council expected to finish what they had started, but they were about to discover that underestimating humanity was a mistake they would only make once. 3 months had passed since the first battle, and the solar system looked completely different. Where once there had been empty space, now there were shipyards, weapons platforms, and supply depots scattered throughout human territory. The asteroid belt hummed with constant activity, as quantum-fold manufacturing facilities worked around the clock to prepare for the coming storm. Admiral Lee stood on the bridge of the massive new flagship Seoul, watching the final preparations through the main view screen. The ship was unlike anything humanity had ever built before, a fusion of human engineering and captured alien technology that represented the best of both civilizations. Around her, the human fleet had grown to over 15,000 vessels, each one incorporating lessons learned from the first battle. "Sir, long-range sensors are detecting the alien fleet," reported Captain Park from the sensor station. "Estimate arrival in 6 hours," Lee nodded. The Grand Armada had been traveling toward Earth for 3 months, giving humanity time to prepare the most sophisticated defense in human history. But this time the aliens knew what they were facing. There would be no surprise, no easy victory through superior numbers. "Signal all ships," Lee ordered. "Take us to the heliopause. We meet them at the edge of our system." The human fleet moved out in perfect formation, thousands of ships arranged in attack groups that had been practicing together for months. Unlike the desperate swarm tactics of the first battle, this fleet moved with the precision of a military parade. Every captain knew their role. Every squadron had trained for this moment. At the edge of the solar system, the Grand Armada dropped out of hyperspace like a metal thunderstorm. 10,000 ships representing 17 different alien civilizations stretched across space in a formation so vast, it took human sensors several minutes to count them all. Each vessel was a masterpiece of galactic engineering, armed with weapons that could crack planets and protected by shields that had never been penetrated. Leading the Armada was Supreme Admiral Keth, a towering warrior from the Draconian Empire. His species had been fighting wars when most of the galaxy was still primitive, and his personal battle record included victories over dozens of rebellious species. He had been specifically chosen to lead this mission because the Council wanted to send a message. Humanity would be crushed so completely that no other species would ever dare to resist Council. Authority. Sensor report. Keth commanded in a voice like grinding stone. The human fleet numbers approximately 15,000 vessels. His sensor officer replied, "They appear to have incorporated some of our technology into their designs. Their formation suggests they intend to fight a conventional battle rather than using their previous swarming tactics." Keth studied the tactical display with interest. The humans had learned from their first encounter, but they had also made a critical mistake. By fighting conventionally, they were playing to the Council's strengths. Alien ships were individually superior, and in a straight fight, quality would defeat quantity. "Open communications with the human fleet," he ordered. The main screen flickered to show the bridge of a human ship. The vessel's interior still looked crude compared to Council technology, but Keth could see improvements. The command staff moved with military precision, and their equipment appeared to be functioning at peak efficiency. "I am Admiral Lee of the Terran Expeditionary Fleet," the human commander said. Her voice was calm and professional, showing none of the desperation that Keth had expected. "You are entering human space with hostile intent. I am Supreme Admiral Keith of the Grand Armada," he replied. "Your species has proven itself to be a threat to galactic peace. You will surrender immediately, or we will destroy every human ship in occupation, every human world." Lee smiled, and the expression made Keth uncomfortable. It was not the smile of someone facing certain defeat. "Admiral," she said, "we appreciate your offer, but humanity has decided to determine its own future. If you want our surrender, you'll have to earn it." The battle began at the heliopause, where the solar wind met interstellar space. Unlike the chaotic swarm of the first encounter, this engagement started with the formal precision of traditional galactic warfare. The two fleets approached each other in line formation, weapons charging and shields at maximum power. But the humans had learned more than just alien technology during their 3 months of preparation. They had also learned how to fight like a unified force. Captain Han led Strike Group Alpha in the opening move, but instead of the wild swarming attacks of the first battle, his ships moved in perfect coordination. Each vessel knew exactly where every other ship would be at any given moment. When the aliens opened fire, the human ships weren't where their targeting computers expected them to be. The human fleet flowed around the alien formation like water around a rock. Instead of meeting the Grand Armada head-on, they split into dozens of smaller groups that attacked from multiple directions simultaneously. Each group was small enough to avoid the aliens' heaviest weapons, but large enough to overwhelm individual enemy ships. Admiral Ai Park commanded the center group from her flagship Busan. Her target was a massive Council dreadnought that bristled with energy, weapons, and had shields strong enough to stop a small asteroid. But instead of attacking it directly, her ships surrounded it and began a coordinated bombardment that struck the same shield section over and over again. "Continuous fire on grid 7-7, Park ordered. "Don't let their shields recharge." The alien dreadnought tried to rotate to distribute the damage, but the human ships moved with it, maintaining their concentrated fire. Other alien vessels tried to assist, but they found themselves under attack by different human squadrons that appeared from unexpected directions. Supreme Admiral Keth watched the battle unfold with growing concern. His ships were individually superior, but the humans were fighting as a single organism. Every move was coordinated, every attack was planned, and every defense was perfectly timed. It was like fighting an opponent with 10,000 arms that all moved in perfect harmony. "Sir, we're losing ships faster than projected," his tactical officer reported. "The humans are concentrating their fire more effectively than our models predicted." Adjust formation to Delta 7, Keth ordered. Concentrate our firepower and break their center. But the human fleet adapted faster than the aliens could change tactics. When the Grand Armada moved to concentrate its forces, the human ships simply flowed around the new formation and continued their attacks from different angles. It was like trying to fight fog with a sword. The battle raged for 18 hours. Human ships darted in and out of weapons range, striking at weak points and disappearing before the aliens could respond effectively. Council vessels, designed for dignified single combat, found themselves overwhelmed by attacks that came from every direction at once. Colonel Zhang's torpedo squadrons had been practicing their attacks for months, and it showed. Her ships moved through the alien formation like schools of fish, launching their weapons and vanishing back into the swarm before return fire could find them. Each torpedo was guided by artificial intelligence that had been programmed with data from captured alien ships. Target their command vessels, Zhang ordered as her squadron approached a cluster of alien flagships. Take out their communications and their fleet coordination will collapse. The quantum torpedoes streaked toward their targets, their guidance systems adapting to alien defensive measures in real time. Several torpedoes were intercepted, but enough got through to damage the alien command structure. As Council communications began to fail, their perfect formations started to break down. By the 20th hour, Supreme Admiral Keith's mighty armada was in retreat. Over half his ships had been destroyed or disabled, and the remainder were too damaged to continue fighting effectively. The humans had lost nearly 3,000 vessels, but their remaining ships were still fighting with undiminished coordination. "Sir, incoming transmission from Chancellor Vex," his communications officer reported. The insect-like alien appeared on the screen, but his usual calm demeanor was gone. His multifaceted eyes were wide with something that might have been fear. "Supreme Admiral, the Council is prepared to discuss terms," Vex said, his clicking voice higher than usual. "Terms?" Keth replied. "What kind of terms?" "A ceasefire, negotiations. The humans have proven themselves to be more formidable than anticipated." Keth looked at his tactical display, which showed the scattered remains of what had once been the most powerful fleet in galactic history. The humans had done more than prove themselves formidable. They had demonstrated that Council superiority was an illusion. "Admiral Lee," he transmitted to the human fleet, "the Galactic Council requests a ceasefire to discuss terms." The response came quickly. "Ceasefire granted, Admiral Keth, but we'll conduct these negotiations in Earth orbit, not yours." 6 weeks later, Director Kim sat across from Chancellor Vex in a conference room aboard the space station that had been hastily constructed in Earth orbit for the peace negotiations. The talks had been difficult, with both sides making demands that the other found unreasonable. But gradually a new agreement had taken shape. "The Council agrees to recognize humanity as a sovereign species with full rights and privileges," Kim said, reading from the final treaty. "Earth will